Welcome to She Roars Boldly. I am your host, Dr. Deborah. Today, we're going to be diving into the stories of extraordinary women who are rewriting the rules, shattering expectations, and refusing to fade into the background. Empowered women say no to being defined by their challenges in a world that tries to silence and sideline them. She Roars Boldly celebrates the remarkable journeys of women who have transformed their struggles into stepping stones to success. So grab your coffee or tea, settle in, and get ready to be inspired and fired up. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Deborah, and this is She Roars Boldly, and we have a wonderful guest today, Elizabeth. And I'm going to be doing something for her a few weeks now. It's getting really close, and she'll be telling you about that because I think all you need to come and join us. So, Elizabeth, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I am a proponent for creativity. For me, I create spaces where people can rekindle their creativity in their hectic lives. And I do this mainly through writing, but other means as well. And I really feel that today, as adults, the creativity has kind of been sucked out of us from our responsibilities, and people forget that creativity is what fuels your soul. It's connected to your soul, and if you don't pay attention to your creativity, then everything else is going to feel really heavy, and eventually you're going to burn out, right? And so I think that but it's not their fault that they're ignoring their creativity because we've been trained that way. School has trained the creativity out of most of us, unless you go to art school. But school, the main purpose of school is to get you ready for the workforce. And the workforce likes regularity and routine and predictability. It doesn't like people to go off and be creative and reinvent the wheel, right? So as we get older, we think that creativity is either a luxury or it's an add-on or it's something nice to do when we're older and have more time or we're tired or something. And yeah, it's great to pick up on that creativity thread when you can. But for me, it's important to have that in your life on a constant basis because that is what's going to avoid burnout. I was actually near burnout myself. One time a friend said, that, oh, it must be so wonderful to teach all these creative projects and topics, because I was teaching screenwriting and poetry and memoir and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I really was lit up in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, there's all the administration stuff and the marking and, all of that bureaucratic academia stuff. And, and so when this friend said like, oh, it sounds like it's so, such a great job. It's like, well, actually, I'm not having that much fun. And I realized that I hadn't made room for my own creativity. I was pouring into everybody else's creativity and I was, running through those administrative hoops that we all have to do when we work in big institutions. And there wasn't any time left for me, and I was exhausted outside of the classroom. So then that's when I realized that even though I felt overwhelmed and that there wasn't enough, time in the day for everything to get done, I decided to do a little film project. And so it was a video poem that it ended up being, and I got a little grant for it, and I hired some other artists. And so it was based on a poem that I had written. And anyway, we ended up making this little video poem, and it was shortlisted in 2 film festival competitions. And it was my first video poem ever. And so it was a lot of fun. Of course, the point wasn't to, be in contest, but hey, now I've got it. So what's the next step, right? So, but what was really interesting as I started working on this project, I stopped feeling so drained and overwhelmed. And those little things that would annoy me from, the job, they just slipped away. And they weren't important. My attention was focused on my soul and my creativity. And everything got better from that. Even my relationship with the person I was seeing at the time, I wasn't talking all the time about like, and then this happened and that happened. And then she said, so all of that just was gone. And I had a better quality, relationships. And I found that, if you feel like you don't have time for your creativity, if you don't have like 10 or 15 minutes, then you need an hour. You need 2 hours, because that's your signal. When you say, "Oh, I don't have time," then you have to make time. That's what I do.
Wow. I think you're right on with that. You know, um, we often think that, particularly as women, that we have to do all this stuff,
Yeah.
and time for us gets kind of put on a back burner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, go for that. I mean, tell me, you know, how can you encourage someone to say, "No, I'm going to do this"?
Well, it's hard, for people to say yes to their creativity because they, feel like there isn't time and they've got all these responsibilities. But then, you know, think about what you could delegate. If you were the CEO of you, what could you delegate? Because that's what a CEO does. The CEO doesn't do all of the things that the people who work for her do. So, and that's what makes a good CEO, that because you're running the ship. You're not, tightening the screws on, some machine somewhere in the ship. But you're hiring the person who can do that. So it lets the CEO maintain the big picture. And so if you were the CEO of you, what would you delegate? And sometimes, again, it's hard for us to let go of things because we feel that that's essential. No one else is going to do it. It's part of our identity. And Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a Canadian doctor, trauma doctor, and he specializes in childhood trauma and how that determines how we react in the world, as adults and stuff. But in one of his talks, he read from an obituary section of a newspaper about this woman who had passed on, and the things that they were saying about her were, she was always there for anybody. It didn't matter what time of day or night. If you needed her, she would be there. And she was always giving to everybody and always with a smile. And he said, that over giving and applauding her for that behavior was actually probably what led her to her death because she wasn't spending time for herself, right? And in our society, we often reward women for being selfless and forgetting about their own self. If they are in service of our needs, if like every time we come home, they do our laundry and, make us dinner and, that we applaud them for that. As opposed to in the obituary, could have said what kind of a person that she was, that, she had a full life. She had a well-rounded life. She did this, she did that. But no, this woman, her whole life, her whole identity revolved around outside of her. And when we do that, that's when we get sick, right? Because our creativity is also tied to our immunity and our well-being. There was a study that Dr. Gene Cohen did, and he followed a group of retirees for a whole year just after they retired. And one half of the the people that he was following, they immediately got into some sort of creative activity in community on a regular basis.
Mhm.
You know, maybe the choir, or, you know, clay class, or, you know, dancing or writing, you know, a writing group. And then the other group just didn't do anything, you know, and it's kind of hard to imagine. You retire and you do nothing, but there's a lot of people who just sit there and, you know, go
Are.
to the pub,
Yeah.
or, you know, and do nothing. And so so after a whole year, the people that were actively engaged in a community oriented creative activity had less bouts of depression, got off medication or was on fewer medications. They had a greater sense of well being. And the opposite with the people who did nothing, they got worse. And
Oh.
and so, you know, and that's why it's so important to cultivate creativity early on. I mean, it's not to say that your whole days are going to be all about creativity, but even if it's just 20 minutes a day, you know, and the key thing here is regularity. It's not like, you know, once a year you do something creative, or like once a year you go to the spa, right? And then that's going to do you for the whole year, right? It's something that you do on a regular basis, and also in community is even better, because we are
Mm.
social animals,
Yeah.
and if we don't you know, interact with other people, that also affects our immune system and our sense of well-being. So I think that it's so, yeah, so it's so important to understand who you are being to you. Like if you're saying like, oh, I can't stop you know, doing the laundry of my 30-year-old daughter or son. I can't stop doing that to be creative in my own right. You know, like really look at that. And what are you afraid of? You know, if you stop doing the laundry of your adult child who's perfectly capable of doing it for themselves, what are you afraid of? And I think sometimes people are afraid that they have lost it, like because we are creative in grade school, even into like high school sometimes, but then we get into university and we get married and then kids, and and we don't prioritize creativity. It's just something associated with fun and play and being a child.
Mhm.
And so sometimes people in their, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they say, oh, it's too late for me. You know, yeah, I used to be creative, but I don't, you know, it's too late for me. Well, it's never too late. You know?
Play for
Yeah, I know. And like George Eliot, the writer, she says, it's never too late to be who you were really meant to be.
Oh, yeah. Now you're speaking my stuff. It never,
Yeah.
it never is. And wow. Yeah, I was talking to someone and they said to me, well, it wouldn't get done.
Yeah.
And I said, so,
Yeah.
you know, well, sometimes we think we have to do things that don't even need to be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
instead, we could have taken that time. Another thing I was thinking as you were talking is, how about turning the television off at night for an
Yeah.
hour and something creative instead of just
Yeah.
sharing, you know,
Yeah.
record your favorite show if you want to, you don't want to miss it,
Yeah.
but, you know,
Yeah.
take some time to do something or read a
Yeah.
book or, you know,
Yeah.
dance some videos if you got
Oh
to do it.
yeah. Dancing is a great one, you know, for like sometimes I go onto YouTube and I put on some music that I find there on YouTube and just dancing around, and it just feels wonderful. You feel so energized afterwards.
Like I get these 10,000 steps a day, and
Yeah.
that's like drudgery. So I
Yeah.
put on, you know, I tell Alexa, put some music on, and I dance
Yeah.
around, you know. If you get them fast,
Exactly.
and they go, you don't even realize you're doing it, you're having fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
So I know you probably have heard this, but I'm going to ask it to you. What do you say to someone who says, I don't have a creative bone in my body? There is nothing I can do.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. And and to those people I say that just the fact that you're standing here in front of me saying that means that you're creative because you've got this far in life, right? Life throws us curveballs.
Right.
Things happen that we weren't expecting, and we have to get creative on how to solve them, right? So creativity and problem solving go hand in hand, and so yeah, you're creative maybe in a way that is different than you have imagined what being creative means, because I think a lot of us think it's an artist, right? So if I'm going to be creative, I have to like abandon my job and like be an artist, and or go up into my ivory tower and write for all hours or something. It's not about that. It's actually better to have small regular times, but yeah, for the person who said that they're not creative, they are, but they've just been trained not to think in that way. But I bet if you talk to them deeper and what do they do for their job or whatever, that there are moments where creativity comes up, and they just haven't recognized it yet.
Yeah. I know I'm the happiest when like I'm working on my book and then I get to do a podcast and just
Yeah.
stuff I don't like is the technology that gets me a little upset. But when that's working, I feel like I'm flying because all these
Yeah.
are creative things. I get to do a lot of cool creative things in my job. I get to talk in front of
Yeah.
people that I get to interact. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ET found home. I'm finally doing what I love.
Yeah.
It, yeah, I get, you
And
know.
that's the other thing, that once you start one creative project, it leads to another.
Mhm.
But like if you don't start, engaging in some creative craft or something, yeah, you won't find anything. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it, right? But a friend of mine, um, we play Celtic music. That's how we originally met, and yeah, and I do Celtic inspired jewelry, like with knot work and that kind of stuff. And so that's a creative outlet that I have. And my friend, so she went the knitting and crocheting route after the Celtic music, which she still does too. And then she went into making big quilts, and she's a member of the quilting uh, guild, and also making tea towels, like with the
Yeah.
loom and stuff like that, like amazing things. And actually, I just bought a hat that she knit for winter from her, and she's just like crazy into all of these crafts, but it all started with one thing, and then she met more people and they were doing this. It's like, ooh, let's explore that, right? And so it really is a journey, and there's an endless variety of things for you to get creative about once you are open to it.
Yeah, you might even find your next job
Exactly, yeah.
doing something you actually want to do, not.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. I love that. I just I think I would dry up if I didn't do something creative. I
Yeah,
just I can't even imagine it.
yeah,
And I know I talk in the aging field too sometimes and do workshops. And one of the things I do touch on is that, at first it's really cool, you're retired, but you've got to have a plan after that, or you're
yes,
just going to end up doing what you just was talking about, sitting in your house,
yeah,
particularly if you lose a partner or a
yeah,
spouse or good
yeah.
friend, maybe you traveled with or something. Yeah. You're
Hmm.
going to lose it. So you need to have this plan for the next stage of your retirement, which is
Yeah.
where you're no longer going, woohoo, I don't have to go to work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
wait,
planning for retirement means more than, how much money am I going to get when I retire, right? There's
it's
a
so
lot
much
more
fun.
to it. Yeah,
Yeah. And creativity, finding something creative that you can do, maybe like woodworking, or you always
yeah,
wanted to learn it, go take different classes. You don't have to come up with it in the first minute.
yeah,
to all
Yeah.
those people who say, well, I don't have anything. I can't do anything. Well, then start trying things. You don't have,
Yeah.
if you don't like one thing, try something else.
Right.
Join,
Exactly.
you like to read, join a book club,
Yeah.
if join a writing club,
Yep.
go take some lessons at so-saw.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My grandparents, they had a campground, and we had people in tents, and then are seasonals who had the trailers and stayed year round. And I think I was 4 when they opened up that business. And so all my childhood, all my summers were spent there, and I got to know quite a few of the seasonals.
Yeah.
And during the summer, the wife would be there with the kids, and maybe the husband would come for a weekend or two, or maybe 1 week in the summer. But generally speaking, you didn't see the dad very often. And then he would retire, and all of a sudden you would see him every day up there. But the following year, he wasn't there because he had passed away. And this happened so many times. And for me, I believe it's that they didn't plan for retirement, right? They had
Mhm.
nothing to do that fulfilled them. Their whole identity was being the breadwinner. And when that was taken away at the end, of their career, they just sat around and like, who am I, and what's it, they didn't even ask those questions. They just had no
Yeah.
identity. And having no sense of self is dangerous, to your well-being. And so it's happened so often that it couldn't be a coincidence, but other men who retired, who had hobbies already lined up, maybe they did something on the
Like to
side,
go play golf, like to, yeah.
yeah, and they got involved in that. So that fulfilled them. It's really important to that's why I say, yeah, you can save yourself in retirement by being creative, but why wait until then?
Exactly. Um, do something now.
Yeah.
Turn off the TV and do
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we get just kind of stuck there, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay to break out of our patterns,
It is.
but
It is.
it's scary.
Yeah.
It is scary to
Yeah.
try something new. It is.
Well, and I think especially for adult learners, because they feel like, to fail is a real source of embarrassment and shame. And they don't want to seem, especially in front of their kids, trying something new and failing. But like, kids don't worry about that. It's like, oh, that didn't work, let's try something else, right? Like, oh, they fall off their bike, well, let's get back on the bike. I mean, that's what we have to do. And not worry that our first thing that we do is worthy of being published or hung on a wall, because it's not
Oh
about
no.
that. It's not about
Oh my.
that.
Yeah. That got me. Yeah. It's like, but I was also thinking because you said kids. So
Hmm.
if you got kids or grandkids, that's a great way to start doing something creative. Do
Yeah.
it with them.
Yeah, do it with them.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that also brings a bonding in,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
and you can learn from them and they can learn from you. And
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. And you're
just,
already modeling that play and creativity is important, and so
mhm.
that's a great gift that you can give your kids.
Yeah, maybe teach them so they don't.
Yeah.
But I think you said it, and it's what I talk on a lot in my books are on, is that as women, we've been trained from early on to just, I don't know, we feel responsible for things.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
Yeah.
even know how we got that message exactly, but I know you ask a man what he does, he goes to work, he comes home,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
takes a nap, cuts the grass. Women,
Yeah.
wow.
I know. They're
Yeah,
they're
why do
going
you feel that
24/7.
way? Why is, playing, well, that can't be good because I need to do these things.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, patriarchy has created an environment where we do all of the unpaid labor, right? All the emotional labor, unpaid labor. And even though there are, men today that are much more aware of the disparity between the workload of a wife and a husband, because the husband comes home and wants his meal on the table, then he puts his feet up in front of the television, has a couple of beers, and goes to bed, and then he goes to work the next day. Whereas like the woman is still cleaning up after the dinner and after the beers in front of the television and all that kind of stuff, right? Like and so even though there are some men who are aware of that disparity, it's still pervasive. We still do live in a patriarchy, and that expects women to do all of that unpaid emotional and physical labor that's around caregiving and keeping care of the house. And so, yeah, so for a lot of women, uh, they take that role seriously and feel like that is who they have to be in order to be loved. And that's another reason why they're so afraid of delegating or just not doing it, because then they won't be loved. They won't be taken care of. That's the fear. But yeah, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an easy shift to make room in your life for your creativity, but it's definitely worth it if you want to avoid, burnout, because although that's part of your identity as a wife and a mother, there is some resentment, and there's exhaustion, and there is burnout. And so, you as the adult and the CEO of you have to recognize where you're burning out and where you're getting exhausted, and shift things so that you can be happier in your life. And often having a creative outlet helps you with that, because it allows you to focus on something else that is enjoyable, but also all of those endorphins that it releases that contribute to your well-being. I mean, that's one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself, is to throw yourself, even for 20 minutes or 30 minutes in a day or every couple of days, into something that is rejuvenating your whole body just by doing it.
Yeah, you probably can get the other things done quicker then,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
have more energy and a better spirit. You're
Right.
not doing,
Exactly.
yeah, doing the
Yeah.
laundry.
Yeah. Exactly.
Laundry,
Yeah.
throwing it in. We need to play.
Yeah. We
Adults
did.
need to play.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying. We need to learn how to play.
Yeah. And, the one of the things that I noticed in the area that I moved to recently is that there are no parks where you can just like walk and have benches to sit down and enjoy the nature around you. There's like soccer fields and stuff for kids, and then there are little pockets of swings and stuff for kids, not for adults, right? Because it's weird if adults are going on the swings, right? So, but that's what I noticed, is like the place where I used to live, there were these big parks that were for people to enjoy nature in. And then I moved to this other place, and there's nothing like that. And it got me thinking, it's like, how come it's so verboten for adults to go on the swings, right? And we really need to have adult swings. We should be allowed to go on the swing. There's nothing wrong with going on the swings.
I love doing swinging.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I get the grandkids pushed and then I get on one. Yeah,
yeah.
it makes you fly. You're flying.
I know. It's lovely.
Okay, believe it or not, it's time for you to tell them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. It was.
Time has flown, just like when you're on a swing.
It's like when you're in the swing. We were having fun. See, I
Yeah,
have some fun.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell them.
So yeah,
What,
I actually connected with Deborah because she's going to be one of the amazing speakers at the Women's Vision Fest, which is happening January 23rd to 30th. And it's called the Women's Vision Fest because it's for women who want to have a bigger vision for themselves and need ideas on how to do that. So we have so many wonderful speakers with different ideas of how to come back to you and how to empower you. And it is a festival as opposed to just like a summit or something. I mean, it's like a summit, but I call it a festival because it is a celebration of our empowerment and our creativity. And it's a place where it's created by women for women, and it's a safe place to come and have like a little chat with, after when we have Q&As after the speaker, and get your questions answered, about things that we've talked about just now in this episode of, like, if you feel like you're not creative, like, get other people's perspective on why that's not true, and how you can be creative and how you can find your creative path, and how you can empower yourself for the next step in your evolution.
Awesome. And you'll have all that information for me, right? And I'll have it in the
Yes.
call notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely want to show up. I'm going to be there. I'll know if you
Yeah.
did.
And it's live, so it's worth showing up. It's a couple of 2 to 3 hours each day, and the schedule is already on there. When you register, you can see all the speakers and the times that they're gonna deliver their talk, and you join us live on the Zoom call. So you're like in the green room for the whole festival, and you get to interact with the speakers as well. So it's a really lovely sacred space that we create for that week.
That's fun. I didn't even know that. That's kind of, all right. I ask everybody this question.
Mhm.
What does she wears boldly mean to you?
It means that we're not afraid to use our voice and to express that we have needs, that we need some downtime. Um, if I may, there's a lifelong friend that I've had, and her mom was a poet, and that's what her job was, writing poetry as well as being a mom. And she got a minder for the children in the afternoon for a couple hours, and she would go into her office and she would write her poetry. And the kids would be completely fine the whole day until those 2 hours. And then when she closed the door, they were like constantly knocking on the door, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." And that's why she had to get, a helper in there to drag the kids away and say, like, "Let's go play," and, divert them so mommy could have her time. And so she she roars boldly. is somebody who's not afraid to close the door and say, "This is my time."
Oh, I got chills. I love that. I mean, seriously, they're still going. Wow, remember that, people. We got not be afraid
Yeah.
and just do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, and hopefully everybody will show up and we can have a wonderful time at the conference.
Yay!
And be in the room for all you theater people. That's cool. And I just love what you're doing, and continue to spread that joy. And because I can tell you light up when you're talking about it. So spread that everywhere you go.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me.
All right. This was She Wears Boldly, and I will be seeing you guys next week.